Every man has two countries, France and his own.
À propos.
À propos.
À propos. À propos. À propos.
À propos. À propos.
A production of the French Consulate General in New York.
With the support of France Amérique magazine.
Welcome to A Propos, a podcast across the Atlantic. I'm your host, Garance Choko. In this podcast, brought to you by the Consulate General of France in New York, I welcome guests from both sides of the Atlantic to discuss cultural, social, and political matters, and to build bridges between our two countries. In this episode, I talked to the jazz singer, TV star, and Disney princess China Moses about growing up in France as an African-American woman, about how to make it in show business, and why the internet changed everything. Stay tuned for a heartfelt conversation where you'll learn how to choose your battles.
I've lived my whole life in France and in Paris. I got to France in 1986, and I felt that it was time for me to live my American side.
And you've given so much to France. You are one of the main voice and faces of France. First of all, you're a child prodigy. You started when you were 16.
Yes, I did.
You've been on France's most prestigious scenes.
Mm-hmm, yeah, I've done a lot of singing, a lot of stages.
You've been hosting some of my favorite shows growing up on MTV and MCM and the Grand Journal.
Yes, that was an experience. A lot of TV. 13 years of TV I did in France.
And you're the princess in The Princess and the Frog.
Yes. It's a lot. It's a lot. You know, it's funny when you're living life and when you're doing things, you don't often realize what you're doing until you sit in front of a lovely person like you and you just read off some of the things that I've done, and I'm like, wow, I've done a lot. And I've always represented the colors of France and the colors of the United States. That's what my mom, Dee Dee Bridgewater, taught me. She's the reason why I ended up in France. She moved to France in 1984. And her love and her obsession with Paris and French culture, well, she kind of handed that down to me, and it's a love of France. The love of France is often spoken about within the Black American artistic community because France has been home to so many of our great minds and artists. So I guess it's been natural for me to do all these things representing France because France gave me such opportunities that I probably wouldn't have had if I grew up in the United States.
Et je te souhaite la même chose, ma chérie. Rencontrer ton prince charmant et danser toute ta vie comme dans les contes de fées. Oh, maman, je n'ai pas le temps de danser.
J'ai encore tellement de choses à faire.
Et ça va te prendre longtemps.
Je n'ai pas le temps de perdre mon temps. Il y a plus urgent sur terre.
Je veux des petits-enfants, moi.
Cette ville est trop tranquille. La vie s'écoule lentement. Je sais où je vais depuis si longtemps. Et j'irai toujours de l'avant. J'irai au bout du rêve. Au bout du rêve. Si je rencontre des montagnes.
China, you're the voice of the character of Tiana in the French version of The Princess and the Frog, the first Disney movie to feature a black princess. So how are discourses about race evolving in France, especially regarding Black and Maghrébin artists?
I remember when I arrived in France in '86, music was very diversified. You had rock, you had rap, you had disco, you had Madonna, Les Négresses Vertes in the same thing, along with Whitney Houston and Zouk Machine, and Kassav. It was France. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I'm like, whoa, what is this place where everybody knows about everybody else's culture and loves everybody else's culture? Somewhere down the line, and I don't know what happened because I was just growing up, it went backwards. Yes, I'm one of the rare black women on French TV. And I know that it's because I'm also Black American. My mother's Dee Dee Bridgewater. She is a loved and known person of France. She's loved by the French people. She loves France. France loves her back. So there's many reasons why I ended up where I am. I'm not saying that I don't have talent, but I'm saying it's much easier to hire me than to hire, I don't know, Estelle Jean from Garges-les-Gonesse, and who's from Guadeloupe. It was much easier. France, for racial discussions, always looks to the United States. So whatever happens in the United States, it hits back on France like maybe a year or 2 years after. So around 2005, we started having a lot of documented racial problems in the States. Everyday racial problems, police brutality stuff. It started surfacing, because the internet was also born. Yeah. So that made things kind of change. And people became on edge because they're like, the France is not the United States. And you're just like, yeah, well, you guys kind of birthed it, but that's a whole other story. I think like in 2004, 2005, Facebook didn't even exist. So once daily, everyday images of racism started being able to be shared, that's when the modern media world kind of just was like, whoa, wait, we thought, no, y'all, it's still trouble out here. So that I think that's kind of what happened, and I lived through that in media. Yeah, I lived through people changing their vocabulary. I lived through being invited to Thierry Ardisson's table, and him, making a joke about, ah oui, j'ai pas le droit de dire black, I have to say noir, and I'm just like, dude, that's what it is. That's what it is. I'm like, if you want to speak in English, yeah, I'm Black American. And then he was like, yeah, but it's Afro-American, African-American. I'm like, dude, I mean, if you really want to go into that, that's a whole other show. Exactly. But I'm black. It's okay. Je suis noir. Y a pas de souci, je suis noir.
I guess that's it. I guess it's over. I just got caught. It's not my fault. I'm lonely. I guess that's it. I guess you're leaving. Temptation got the best of me.
So China, what would be your advice to Black and Maghrébin artists in France that are up and coming and that have to navigate, this complicated industry?
Well, what's happening to TV now is what happened to music, I would say, about 15 years ago, which is internet came in and has taken over. So anybody who wants to be a TV presenter, hey, do it yourself. The internet is your friend. You want to have a podcast? Go get 2 microphones, get somebody who's got a good quality phone, film it, just do it. There is no other way. When I see all of my friends making blockbuster movies in France, or TV shows in France, Franck Gastambide doing a TV show about rap in France on Canal Plus, like, what world are we in? Franck Gastambide was my cameraman on MTV. Mouloud Achour having his own TV show, TV station. Now he's on Europe 1. Mouloud Achour is from Clichy-sous-Bois. He's Kabyle. Okay? His mom makes us couscous. Okay? His dog is called Couscous. We watch Dragon Ball Z and play video games. We are the adults that are sitting at the table right now. It's really funny. We're all kind of teenagers. And I think that all of us have learned to just do it ourselves. People who see people like Franck Gastambide or Mouloud and all the people that font Gaston Bide and Mouloud, or you see Courtrajmé, you see JR, you see these, it's all the same group of friends. We all came up together. So everybody was working for everybody else. Everybody participated in everybody else's project. So what we learned was that we had to do it ourselves. If we wanted to see it, you do it yourself. And that is what the internet has brought with music, and it's what it's brought with TV.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you have to stay close to your tribe, right? So you have your friends, they're talented, they're ambitious, they have something to say. So how do you support each other?
I have this saying, there is a special place in heaven for friends who help you move. Yeah. Like if you're moving and you call in friends and they show up, those are special friends. They have a special room in heaven. Like they have the best spot, because moving is a pain in the butt. Yeah. But there is also a special place for people who give their time. When I think even on France Télévisions, there's a couple, there's Raphael Yem, who's Cambodian. He presents lots of shows for France 3. He was doing François, France 4. He does Culture Box now. But he got on TV because Mouloud and I invited him to MTV to be our chroniqueur. You know, he has a magazine called Fumigène. He's from Caen. He has a magazine about culture and art viewed for people outside of Paris, because that's a whole other discussion. What do you do when you're not from Paris? That's why the internet is your friend. My answer to what can you do if you are from the banlieue, if you're from Provence, if you are not connected at all to media, no matter what your color is, and especially if you are a person of color. But it goes for everybody. You gotta just do it yourself. The internet is an amazing and scary place, and you can feel like you get lost. But if I saw a woman develop her whole career during the pandemic, a woman here, she had something on Instagram called The Council, where she dressed up as different versions of herself and would talk to herself. And it's really great, and it kept me very much entertained. She's a 24 actress, and it went viral on TikTok. And now she has a TV deal. I would not have the career I have if I was in the United States. Because since everything is quick in the United States, everything can disappear. In France, it's kind of like you just have to keep on proving that you're worthy. And then one day, people are just like, oh, and here's an opportunity that you can't refuse. Like the Grand Journal, that's what it was. I was on TV for 13 years. And people were like, you just arrived. And I'm like, I've been around.
You said to me, you need to learn how to pick your battle. And so I would like to end this conversation with you elaborating more about,
learning how to pick your battles. It's something my mom said to me when I was very young, when I started doing TV, when I started doing media. Of course I had frustrations. Of course I knew things were not happening for me. I wasn't being chosen because I was Black, because I was a woman, because of many things. I knew it was never because of me not having the talent or the intelligence to do a certain job. I don't go for jobs I can't get. Know what you can get. I'm not delusional. I pretty much aim for things that I can get. But she told me, you have to learn how to pick your battles. She's been confronted with the same thing. My mom was 18 when segregation was officially ended in the United States. So she definitely had to learn how to pick her battles. You can't fight every day. And there's some battles that are really not worth it. Just last night, I went back to the Metropolitan Opera to go see the new production of Porgy and Bess. Porgy and Bess is a very controversial opera. It's called the first great American opera, but it's written by for white people. It's only Black people on stage, which in 1935 was crazy to do because they would have rather had people in blackface portray Black life. But is this really a portrayal of Black life if it's written by 4 white people? Not really. But it's a great story. It's one of the operas that yielded the most beautiful melodies. Summertime is from that. Summertime. It's the opening aria from that opera. And so I went there. I had gone a couple of weeks before to see Fire Shut Up in My Bones, the first Black, composed opera at the Met, and there's Black people there. The audience was cosmopolitan, and it looked like a fashion show. Everybody was Instagrammable. It was incredible. It was alive. The Metropolitan Opera was just like living. People were laughing and joking and taking pictures everywhere, and it was lovely to see. And then I see Porgy and Bess, and it's predominantly a white audience, so it's very calm. And then there's all these Black people on stage, and I'm sitting down next to this older white gentleman. The show starts, and there's this gorgeous lady sitting in front of me with this beautiful hairdo, elaborate bouquet, type of Billie Holiday gardenias, and her silhouette with the all Black in the room was absolutely stunning. And I'm an Instagram chick, so I had to snap the picture before turning off my phone. He leans over, he's like, please turn that off. And I looked at him, I was like, please mind your business. The show hadn't started. It was just the beginning first notes. We had a minute 50 of musical introduction. I've been to the opera before, dude. I know how this show, I've seen Porgy and Bess like 5 times. I know how this show goes. And I know how long this intro is. And my partner, who is Black American, just grabbed my hand. He's like, I don't think I can sit through the show now that you've just been through that. I was like, it's okay. I'm like, because we're at the opera. We're at the opera. We're going to see Angel Blue and Eric Owens and all of these great Black opera singers. An opera that is controversial, yet the choreography is done by a young Black American woman. There's so many things about this version that I was like, I'm not going to let this guy kill my joy. But it's still there. You have to pick your battles. I could have gone off on him and created a scene. I could have let that ruin my evening, but I picked my battle. I just gave him the best reply I thought I could think of at the moment, and I thought the reply was pretty good. But every time something like that happens to you, depending on the person, depending on the time, depending on where you are, and yes, it requires quick thinking. You have to choose that battle. Well, and if you choose it, go hard.
Exactly. When you choose it,
go for it. Do not pick a battle that you can lose.
With your friends. Well, China, thank you so much.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the whole team. Everybody who's listening does not see the team. The team is lovely here. Thank you. The French consulate in New York is a gorgeous building, and I'm lucky as a French person with an American passport to be invited here as the first guest.
Thank you, China. And before we close,
yes,
where can people find you? So you have a lot of things going on. You're on the radio. Where can I find you?
Well, if you are internet people, and you probably are if you're listening to this podcast, just go to China Moses on your favorite platform and you'll find me. I'm not hard to find. And it's China, like the country, and Moses, like the guy who speaks to burning bushes.
This was A Propos, a French-American podcast brought to you and produced by the French Consulate General in New York. Thank you for listening to us. Don't forget to like and subscribe.